Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. AMC stock is up about 1% today, and I hope you're having a freaking fantastic day. This situation with AMC probably about to get even more bullish. We'll see what ultimately happens. We do have an update on this Israel conflict. All of the data you need to know on AMC stock, including the option activity, the put-to-call ratio that is continuing to fall, as well as any and all news for AMC stock today. I really do think this Israel conflict is something we need to be watching closely in regards to any potential black swan event. If this situation does escalate, you could see a 20% plus pullback in our market. So I do want to go over that and remind you guys of historical events in the past, some of these wars and other bad events and what kind of effect they've had on our markets in the past. So pretty excited to bring you guys this update. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. So first things first, let's just acknowledge AMC stock was up about 1% today. At one point today, you were above $10 per share. You hit a high of $10.38 per share. You wanted to see a close above $10 per share. I'm not going to argue with today, though. Today was still good, just relatively speaking to what is going on out there. Some of the things that are happening out there, not exactly the greatest. Now, take a look at this article. It says, right here, it says, this one says U.S. has enhanced military force posture in the region to ensure deterrence, Biden says. The Department of Defense has moved the USS General R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence as we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. Now, there's one specific piece that I do want to share with you. Let's see. Maybe it's up here. But I was just like, ooh, it just does not look good. Let's see. This one. So it says, U.S. engaging in contingency planning in case situation in Israel escalates. The movement of a U.S. carrier strike group to the eastern Mediterranean is meant to deter other nations or groups from exploiting the situation. Quote, let me be clear. We did not move the carrier for Hamas, Sullivan told reporters at the White House. We moved the carrier to send a clear message of deterrence to other states or state actors that might seek to widen this war. The president has also tasked us with engaging in contingency planning for any and all escalation scenarios, Sullivan said, and we are now deeply engaged in that planning, and we're consulting with allies and partners as well about all of the potential scenarios that might unfold in the days ahead. So they're basically sitting here saying, hey, there's a decent chance this does spill over into more nations and become maybe a multi-front conflict. We're going to be ready for that, which is good. I mean, that's you definitely want to be ready, but just what I just read you sounds like it's getting worse, like we're planning for the worst, rather than, hoping this situation does get better. Now, what is also important to note is that Biden made it very clear that he is not going to tell Israel what to do. They're not going to tell Israel to refrain from basically eradicating Hamas. Hamas will no longer exist. Let's be honest here. I know you guys don't probably live in Israel, so you might not care as much, but Hamas will no longer exist. They will be wiped off the face of the earth. Israel is going to go into Gaza, go door to door if they have to eradicate Hamas. Question is, does that prompt Israel or Hezbollah or other entities to get involved in this situation? Having this strike carrier group right outside the coast, and with kind of some of the, I guess, aggressive forward-looking statements the U.S. is making, kind of a proud moment if you're an American. At least we're posturing like we will do something. Who knows if we actually would or not. So it looks like the deterrence is working, at least for now. And again, Biden said he's not going to tell Israel to back down. We're going to let Israel go eradicate Hamas. That's what it's looking like. So as long as you have the U.S. support, Israel basically has an open door to eradicate Hamas. As long as we are on their side. Because, I mean, with the U.S. on their side, even if all of the Middle East turned against us, Israel knows they'd be fine, right? We would handle business. But that's something that is hopefully not going to happen. But as this situation continues on, it doesn't look promising that we will end up staying out of this conflict. Now, the White House also said that there is 20 plus U.S. citizens that are missing or held hostage. This is on top of the 14 U.S. citizens that have already been confirmed killed in Israel and the Gaza. So all in all, I mean, you're looking at 34 plus U.S. citizens involved in this, harmed in this in one way, shape, or form, maybe even killed in this. So that does potentially lead to maybe a stronger chance of getting into this conflict. We'll have to wait and see. It looks like Israel has started fighting Hezbollah a little bit more on their northern territory as well. So you definitely want to watch that. This does say rockets were launched from Syria into Israel territory on Tuesday, the IDF says. So it looks like you might start to see this situation get a little bit worse from here. This is something the markets are not going to care about this until really the U.S. is involved, until this has a broader impact on oil, or until this looks like it's really going to be a multi-nation war or multi just entity war in general. Now, take a look at this. This is from Carson Research, and it's a chart showing the geopolitical events that have happened in the markets. Actually, I do want to show you this other chart. I think it's a lot better personally. This one from Carson Research. And you can see some of these events, right? Germany invades France. 1 month, you were down about 20%. 12 months later, you were down about 19%. The Hungarian uprising, you were down 2.1% in the first month after, down almost 12% 1 year later. The Suez crisis, same thing, down about 5% 1 month, and then you were lower by about 12% 12 months later. If you look at some of these conflicts that are directly related to the Middle East, the Yom Kippur War, 1973, you were down about 4% the following month. 1 year later, you were down 43%. The oil embargo, you were down 7%. 1 month later, down 35% 1 year later. The USS Cole Yemen bombing, you were down 20% within the following year. The U.S. terror attacks, you were down 20% in the following year. Let's see, U.S. pulls out of Afghanistan, you were down 12% the following year. Iranian general killed in airstrike. 3 months into that, you were down about 23%. 1 year later, you were actually higher by 14.4%. So some of these Middle Eastern conflicts can have quite the impact on our markets, especially if the U.S. is involved in that. Now, what's interesting here is 1 month into a geopolitical shock event, you're typically lower or higher, I guess I should say, about 42.1% of the time. So most of the time you're lower following 1 month after the event. On the average, you're down about 1.2%. Now, 3 months later, you're higher by about 63.2% of the time. The average return of 0.2%. 6 months later, you're higher by about 57.9% of the time. 2% is the average return. And 1 year later, 63.2% of the time you're higher, with an average return of 2.1%, a median return of 7.4%. So 1 year later, you tend to be higher, or really as time progresses, 3 to 6 months to 12 months, you tend to be higher. But most of the time, 1 month after a stock market shock or major geopolitical shock, you tend to actually be lower. So I don't think the situation is over. Stocks have been green basically every day this Israel conflict has started yet. But once the U.S. does get involved, which it looks almost inevitable we will, that's where you start to get a much larger potential problem on our hands, at least for equity markets. So that's something I'll be watching very closely. If you guys want to stay up to date with what's going on, just hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you guys are notified. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning. It could be midnight that I bring you a video if there's any big news that does come out that you need to know. So you definitely want to have that notification bell turned on. Now, let's directly speak about AMC stock. Now, it does not look like there was any specific crazy news with AMC stock today. I didn't see anything on the wire. Really, Taylor Swift, Beyonce movies, that's the biggest news that we have gotten as of recently. Now, I think AMC stock, I've talked about this before so many times. I hate to say it over and over again, but it does seem like to me the risk to reward being short in AMC just did not look great for a while now, especially when AMC was down at, $7 per share. Potentially AMC falls another $2 from there, falls to $5 per share. But what if AMC rallies to $20, $30, $40, $50 per share in 2024? That's also a possibility. So when you're just looking at your position as a hedge fund on a risk to reward basis, it doesn't make sense to be short in AMC. So I do think you will likely start to get some shorts covering as we get above $10 per share. I think a lot of what we're actually seeing right now is traders as well as some hedging that is taking place for 2024, not necessarily just a bunch of shorts covering, right? AMC stock has moved from $7 per share to about $10 per share, close to $10 per share here today, but still there's a lot more of a rally to come in my personal opinion. If you take a look at the Ortex data here, you have a short score of about $226 million, estimated short interest or free flow at 11.62%, free flow out on loan at 14.92%, shares out on loan 29.51 million, days to cover 1.8, cost to borrow 2.03, utilization of 58.7. So nothing too shocking here. The dollar amount, though, that is sold short in AMC stock is continuing to grow kind of, with this latest rally we've seen. Obviously, that's going to happen. But I do believe the short interest off free flow is a lot higher than what it looks like over here. I do think there's a lot of synthetic short positions. I do think there's a lot of short positions that are not exactly getting picked up by the SEC and FINRA, right? They're just not seeing them, or the New York Stock Exchange as well. And there's a lot of ways that can happen. I'm not going to get into all of that. A lot of it has to do with option activity, and it's a problem we've been dealing with AMC stock for a very long time, so that is nothing new. Now, if you take a look at the put-to-call ratio is falling yet again today, now at 0.74. The lower, the better. Now, this is another reason I do think a larger extended rally is coming, because if you take a look at the put-to-call ratio, you were very, very high for a long time, right? You were way up here, 1.8, 1.6, just egregiously high levels on the put-to-call ratio. Well, now you've fallen back to a normal range of what AMC has traded at over the past, couple of years or so. Over the past couple of years, we have seen 1, 2, 3, I'm not going to count that, 3, 4, 5 multi-100% runs, meaning that you go up like 2 to 3, 4, 500%. But over the past year, we haven't had a single one. Ever since back here in August of 2022, we haven't had a single multi-100% run. And a lot of that was because the put-to-call ratio just started to skyrocket. There was a lot of puts that were being bought, and that was having a very much downside pressure on AMC stock. So it looks like that is coming to an end. And I do think if you mix that with, again, the poor risk reward being short on AMC heading into 2024, and these other factors that we're talking about here, dilution probably done for a while, I would imagine, that creates a pretty optimistic scenario for AMC. And again, AMC was trading at lower levels than you have seen since ever, really. I mean, you were lower than even January of 2021, when there was real fears and concerns that AMC would ultimately go bankrupt. I want to be long in this scenario. Now, if you look at the technicals, things look very good over here as well. The MACD has been trending up for a long time now, for about a month. Since September 14th, you went positive. You've been trending up ever since then. The RSI at 43.42, so you're still not even at neutral, guys, even after this rally that you have seen. Once you break above 50, that's probably where you get a lot more buying pressure actually coming into the stock. Now, this longer-term downtrending level of support, you were recently under that, and it's served as resistance ever since. Now you're back above that. That break was at about $9.40 per share here today. You're currently at $9.89 per share. So it looks like you're solidly above that. As long as you stay above that, which it looks like we are here today and here in after hours, then you continue to rally higher. And I think your next stop is that 50-day moving average around $18.76 per share. That's my personal opinion. Maybe that happens because of earnings. Maybe we get some news. Maybe it just happens because it happens and AMC can do what it wants. Who knows? We'll obviously have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you think this rally has legs to continue, or do you not? Now, if you take a look at the option activity as well, let's go ahead and refresh this page. You have about 31,000 calls currently in the money expiring this Friday, 56,000 calls out the money, almost 57,000. Puts in the money at 3,500, puts out the money at about 53,000. So you have more calls out the money than puts out the money. You have about 10 times the amount of calls in the money compared to puts in the money. So all great things to say about AMC. I mean, you look very strong here, and I wouldn't be too eager to turn bearish on AMC stock again. I do think there is a much larger rally to come before we even consolidate, right? A lot of this does depend on the economic data, the Israel war, what happens there. But from my perspective, you have a lot more to rally before things start to turn down at all. And eventually they will. Eventually AMC will stop going straight up. You will start to trade sideways, maybe go down a little bit. I still think you're probably heading to about that 50-day moving average before that even happens. So that's going to do it for this video. That's what I got for you. In the next video, we're going to look at some other things and talk about the economic data coming out tomorrow, what the expectations are, and all of that. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.